Coming up next, right here on Hannity.
How do we get the young and how do we get the healthy to get healthy?
That was the reason they came up with the plan.
That was the reason they came up with the plan.
So I made my kids sign up because I just said this is your patriotic duty.
Media Mash is back, and each week the examples get more and more outrageous. Brent BoZell, next. Stay with us. Welcome back to Hannity. It's time for Media Mash, the weekly roundup of all the ways the mainstream media tries to put its liberal spin on the news. Here with us to go through this week's material is the president of the Media Research Center, Mr. Brent BoZell. We have a lot to get to, Brent, only about 5 or 6 minutes or so. Let's start with the runner-up shot of the year. Go ahead. Let's roll it.
This is the website, folks, healthcare.gov. If you go to this website, you will find out how easy it is to read, how easy it is to navigate, all the information, all the basic questions, and all the direction you need to take to get involved to get health care. This is a great guide, if I may say, for any of you out there who feel so confused by all of these right-wing commercials that are just permeating through your television screen.
Oh, boy, Brent. We should probably call this the left-wing open mouth insert foot award.
You know, it reminds me of Baghdad Bob. Remember him in the streets of Baghdad proclaiming that the Iraqi army was defeating the Americans? It's the same thing. He was cheerleading for a site that nobody could get on. If you could get on, you couldn't sign up. If you could sign up, you couldn't afford it. And if you can't afford it and you get on there, they're going to steal your information. And he's cheerleading this. Yeah. This is probably, by the way, you have to understand, this is why MSNBC lost 29% of its primetime viewers last year. It's a mockery of itself.
And anyone that refers to himself in the third person, I think Ed Schultz refers to himself as Big Eddie. You got to push away from. Okay, can you beat that one? Let's listen to the winner, quote of the year. Let's listen.
One of the most comprehensive first-person accounts of slavery comes from the personal diary of a man called Thomas Thistlewood, a punishment invented by Thistlewood that spoke only of the slave owner's savagery and inhumanity. When Mrs. Palin invokes slavery, she doesn't just prove her rank ignorance, she confirms that if anyone truly qualified for a dose of discipline from Thomas Thistlewood, then she would be the outstanding candidate.
Not sure who qualifies for a dose of discipline. Go ahead, Brent.
Now, Eric, let's note, you didn't run the actual footage, the actual quote, because it's too obscene. It talks about defecating in her mouth. That's what was put on there on a planned segment. It took 19 days for this man to resign. He was never fired for this. And on top of that, they praised him. Comcast praised him as a good man when he resigned after doing that.
I got to tell you, one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard. Sarah Palin, a good friend of mine, I was very offended by that. A lot of people were. All right, let's listen to this one now. Brian Gumbel coming back to the Today Show, calling Republicans extortionists. Is that right? Let's take a listen.
And number 5, the federal government shutdown. I think that was on most of our lists as well.
Yeah, but I called it the GOP shutdown.
I know you did. Yes.
Well, I thought it was a false equivalency for people to say it was a government shutdown, a failure of government. It was not. It was a few individuals who were trying to extort the government.
Extortion. There it is again. Boy, you think they learned their lesson they tried that once before, did they not?
You know, I can't stand this man's arrogance, his elitism. They did this in 1998, and he was one of the people who did this in 1998, calling it the Newt Gingrich shutdown, when it was Bill Clinton who shut it down. It was the Democrats who shut down the government. The Republicans passed a budget that the Democrats wouldn't support. That's historical reality. So I really don't give a hooey. This man is so old and so arrogant and so elitist. I wish he'd go back to sports.
Yeah. Came from sports, go back to sports. Gotcha. All right, how about this one now? MSNBC, Richard Wolff says, if you don't like Obamacare, you're one of the biggest losers of the year. Listen.
Richard Wolff, biggest loser of the year.
I'm tempted to say these are the biggest losers because this is the Obamacare haters. You know, they really thought they had that moment. The healthcare site was just ready to fail completely. This was it, the last chance that they could stop this train wreck. And then it got fixed. And then people started to get better health care. And all of those individual stories that they globbed onto and said, look, someone didn't get the health care, it turned out to be untrue. I'm afraid they are like those apocryphal people fighting the Second World War on a lost island somewhere in the Pacific. They'll still be there, but health care will have moved on.
So apparently if you're liberal and if you don't think like you're a liberal, you're a big loser.
What planet do these people live on? The idea that it's fixed. There are millions of people who are knocked off their health insurance. There are tens of millions more who are going to be knocked off their health insurance because this man lied. And what's this business about? Suddenly people are getting better health care. Where can he back this up anywhere? By the way, those Obama haters, that's well over 50% of the American population that doesn't want this law.
All right, let's listen to this one. It's the last one we have time for. Very quick on the Rhino Show. Watch.
You know what's interesting? So you talk about your kids, and they talk about, one of the big challenges for Obamacare and the rollout so far has been how do we get the young and how do we get the healthy to sign up for health care, which was a dynamic prior to Obamacare. How do we get the young and how do we get the healthy to get health? That was the reason they came up with the plan.
So I made my kids sign up because I just said this is your patriotic duty.
Your patriotic duty. Is that how it works?
So it's our patriotic duty to support a failed socialist experiment. What I would say to the chief editor, a medical editor of NBC is, this is not North Korea. We don't need to do that in this country. And by the way, when you actively lobby for left-wing legislation, you have broken the most critically important rules of journalism that are imaginable. And that's what the chief medical editor of this network is doing.
Brent BoZell, thank you very much. We got all 5 of them in. Great job, Brent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that's all we have time left for this evening. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you back here, big night tomorrow night. See you